The billionaire's son has only 48 hours to live until a shy cleaner spoke up. The machines beeped in perfect rhythm, counting down the final hours of a life that money couldn't save. In the private wing of Manhattan's most exclusive hospital, 17-year-old Ethan Carmichael lay motionless, his skin pale as the Egyptian cotton sheets beneath him, while his father stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city he owned piece by piece, watching his empire mean nothing at all. The doctors had given their final verdict that morning, 48 hours, maybe less. Ethan's body was rejecting the fourth liver transplant, and there were no more options, no more experimental treatments, no more miracles that money could buy. For the first time in his life, billionaire Marcus Carmichael was powerless. If this story touches your heart, please hit that like button, drop a comment below sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to Kindness Pulse for more inspiring stories that remind us what truly matters in life. Maria Santos had worked as a night cleaner at St. Vincent's Memorial Hospital for 3 years, moving through the hallways like a ghost, invisible to the important people who rushed past her with their expensive shoes and urgent phone calls. She was 32 but looked older, her hands roughened by industrial cleaning solutions, her English still broken despite her best efforts. She had learned long ago to keep her eyes down, to never speak unless spoken to disappear into the background of other people's emergencies and triumphs. But something about the boy in room 2847 had been pulling at her heart for weeks now. She had first seen Ethan 2 months ago, when he'd arrived for what everyone thought would be a routine transplant. Back then, he'd still had color in his cheeks, still tried to smile at the nurses, still seemed to believe that this time would be different. Maria had cleaned his room every night, moving quietly around the medical equipment, emptying trash bins filled with expensive flower arrangements that wilted before Ethan could enjoy them. She'd watched him deteriorate day by day, watched the hope drain from his eyes, watched his father pace the hallways making angry phone calls to doctors around the world, demanding solutions that didn't exist. But Maria had also noticed something everyone else seemed to miss in their rush to save Ethan with medicine and machinery. She'd seen the way Ethan's eyes followed his father with a hunger that had nothing to do with his failing liver, the way his fingers would reach out slightly whenever Marcus walked past, the way his heart monitor would spike not from pain but from the desperate need for a touch, a word, a moment of genuine connection. She'd seen Marcus too, trapped behind walls of wealth and fear, unable to cross the chasm between being a provider and being present, his love expressed only through frantic phone calls and larger donations to the hospital. On Ethan's final night, Maria entered his room at 2:47 a.m. to find both father and son awake in the darkness, each pretending the other wasn't there, separated by 3 feet of expensive hospital floor that might as well have been an ocean. Marcus stood rigid by the window, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs he thought no one could see, while Ethan lay staring at the ceiling, tears sliding silently down his temples into his hair. Maria should have left. It wasn't her place to interfere in the private grief of billionaires. But something inside her, perhaps the memory of her own father who had died when she was 16 without ever hearing her say she loved him, made her put down her cleaning supplies and step into the room. "Say A tilde plus minus or Carmichael," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus turned, irritation flashing across his face at the interruption. But Maria pressed on, her hands trembling. "I am sorry, I know I should not speak, but your son, he does not need more doctors. He does not need more machines. He needs you, just you, to hold his hand, to tell him the things fathers tell their sons." The silence felt like it lasted forever. I can't," Marcus started, but Maria moved to Ethan's bedside, her calloused hand gently taking the boy's pale fingers. "When my father died," she said, looking at Ethan but speaking to Marcus, "the last thing I remember is his hand. Not his money, not his work, just his hand, holding mine, telling me he loved me. That is what stays. That is what matters." Something shattered in Marcus Carmichael in that moment. He crossed those 3 feet to his son's bedside and took Ethan's other hand. The boy's eyes widened in shock before filling with tears. "Dad," Ethan whispered, and Marcus broke completely, lowering his head to his son's chest, sobbing openly. "I'm here," Marcus choked out. "I'm so sorry I haven't been here." "Not really." "But I'm here now." Maria quietly slipped from the room, leaving father and son in an embrace that money couldn't buy and death couldn't diminish. She returned to her cleaning cart with tears streaming down her face, believing she'd never know if those final hours made a difference. If this story has moved you, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to Kindness Pulse. But 3 weeks later, a miracle occurred. Ethan's body, which had been shutting down, began to stabilize. The rejection markers decreased. The doctors called it impossible, unprecedented, but Marcus knew better. He found Maria outside the service entrance, thinking she was being fired for overstepping. Instead, Marcus stood before her with Ethan at his side, thinner but alive and smiling, and took both her hands. "The doctors say it's a medical miracle," Marcus said. "But I know the truth. You gave my son something I couldn't. You reminded me that love is the only medicine that truly heals." Maria had taught them all that sometimes the people we least expect to matter are the ones who save our lives in ways that transcend medicine and money, and that love, presence, and human connection are the only currencies that truly matter when we're standing at the edge of forever.